Peter Cardwell has joined us in the studio. It's fresh from a rainy College Green. I didn't realise that it was suddenly raining, but I suppose it is the last day of August, so
yes.
It should have come on the bank holiday, but we've got it now. I can't believe it's almost autumn.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Seems weird, doesn't it?
Well, I think autumn technically starts on the 23rd of September.
Does it?
Yes,
okay.
A little bit of time to go.
All right, good. Now, this was not an unexpected reshuffle. There was sort of belief that Ben Wallace was going to step aside.
Yeah.
Any surprises in what happened this morning?
No, this was a very low-key and pretty managerial, very sort of Rishi Sunak-y kind of thing to say, here's Grant Shapps, a bit of a safe pair of hands. He's been in lots of ministerial jobs like Transport Secretary. He was Home Secretary for all of 6 days, let's remember.
He was.
He's been in net zero, energy security and net zero. He's someone who doesn't rock the boat, isn't going to cause a huge number of problems, unlike Ben Wallace, who was a bit of a maverick, someone who was absolutely someone who would put forward his own views in terms of funding for the military and so on. Someone who's going to be really interesting on the backbenches, even if he's only there for about a year or so. He's going to be an interesting
character. Well, there was
character.
a time when he was being touted as the possible leader, wasn't it? And
yeah, he dropped out. He made a decision for family reasons to drop out of the leadership election for the Conservative Party before last summer. And he was touted as well as NATO Secretary General, but then it was made clear that wasn't going to happen.
Yes, Biden kind of put the kibosh on that. But I suppose people will say that also he might have been conceived as somebody who was a bit closer to the armed services than they would like for somebody who was
as a former serving officer himself as well. He served in Northern Ireland and was seen. I suppose the question, if you are in a ministerial office, it's similar actually in the Home Office. If you're a lawyer in the Ministry of Justice, if you're a lawyer or a barrister, are you seen as sort of too close to what you're sort of managing and being the Secretary of State of, or should you have a little bit of distance? So that's something Grant Shapps certainly has. He's had a lot of domestic briefs. He's had a lot of stuff in terms of how Britain works in terms of transport and energy security. But there's a very big, obviously huge kind of foreign outlook for defence, and that's something that'll be new to him.
Yes.
So it'll be very interesting to see what he does next.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, in the Home Office, we were told when Cyrilla Braverman was appointed, it's going to be great because she's a lawyer and she understands the law and she'll be able to make things happen. And sadly, that doesn't seem to have been quite what we've seen.
Well, they had Priti Patel, and then they said, right, we've got someone who's also more right-wing woman in Cyrilla Braverman, who's going to be even tougher in the Home Office, and neither of those two women have managed to turn things around. I think the Home Office has just defeated everybody that's ever sat down in that chair. Yeah, I mean, Theresa May would argue differently. I think she got a few things done, but you're absolutely right in that it is sort of where careers go to die, really. And certainly, I mean, we go back to John Reid, the Labour Home Secretary, said the Home Office wasn't fit for purpose. They actually split it into two departments, Home Office and Ministry of Justice.
And it still isn't fit for purpose now, twice over, which is great. Claire Coutinho, Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero. What do we know about her?
Yes, well, she is a relative newcomer to the House of Commons. Only 2019 was when she came in, but she's been on the political scene for a while. She was a special advisor in the House of Lords. She was also special advisor to Rishi Sunak when he was Chief Secretary to the Treasury. So they've worked very, very closely together. He only had one special advisor at that time as Chief Secretary, so a really, really close friend and ally of Rishi Sunak and people around him. She came in 2019. She was made a minister in September last year. She's actually been a minister for less than a year. She was Children's Minister in the Education Department, so one of the junior ministers there. And there are actually three ranks of ministers. So the Secretary of State's the top one, which Claire Coutinho is now. There's Minister of State, which is one down, and then one down from that is Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State, the most junior of junior ministers. So that's what she was. She was on the first rank of the ministerial ladder. So it's a massive promotion for her and a real reward for her. It's a huge job.
I mean, you could argue that given the state of the energy crisis that we're currently in, actually an even bigger job than the defence job at the moment.
I think it probably is in terms of how it actually relates to people's day-to-day lives. Grant Shapps always said it was energy security first, then net zero. In terms of energy security, we look at our gas prices going up. Obviously, things have been stabilised a little bit recently. We've got the Ofgem cap has gone down a little bit in the last week or so. I think it was last Friday where they said it was going down. But there's a lot of tasks on her in her inbox. I mean, does she go for nuclear power, for example? That's long overdue. It was kiboshed by Nick Clegg when he was Deputy Prime Minister. And net zero is a massive priority for the government. I know we don't like it around these parts. I'm certainly not a fan of it.
Well, it's a problem for them as well because there's an awful lot of people who are not really sure about whether they want to have that happen to them.
You're absolutely right in that it is a big political issue. It'll be an issue on which a number of people will decide, I think, how they're going to vote the next election. It is the policy of the Conservatives, Labour and Liberal Democrats, so I think it's unlikely to go anywhere anytime soon. But certainly with ULEZ, with the kind of how net zero is encroaching on people's lives in terms of those extra costs, those levies, things like ULEZ, things on your bill. I think that's going to be a really crunchy one.
When it was a kind of
tackle.
theoretical conversation, when people were talking about what seemed like a very long time away, 2030, to suddenly do away with petrol and diesel cars. Now it's not that far away. So people, I think, are starting to wake up and go, hang on a minute, what do I do now? Because I'm supposed to buy a new car. Am I going to buy a petrol car if in about 5 years' time it's going to start becoming worthless?
Yeah, well, exactly.
And I can't do anything with it.
Well, there's also the fact that they could actually go up in value, because people will say, well, if they're not making them anymore, people actually want petrol cars.
Yeah, but it's an unknown, though.
It is an unknown.
Nobody likes an unknown.
It's a massive unknown.
It's a known unknown.
A known unknown. It's a massive known unknown for the industry as well, because if they change it, if they say, well, actually, we're going to move to 2035 or 2040 because we're not moving quickly enough, well, all their processes to get to 2030 are already in place, so they'd have to change all that, so there'd be more uncertainty for them as well.
Right, it's a very, very big story in a big department, and I hope she's up to it, because I'm not sure that she's got the background, really. She's coming from an investment bank, Merrill Lynch, before she moved into social justice policy. We shall see, but interesting time. So that's it anyway for now, right?
That's it for now. So we only had 3 changes. Grant Shapps going to Defence, Claire Coutinho going to Energy and Net Zero, and then this new guy who I hadn't heard of before, David Johnson. David Johnson, Big Dave, who has moved into...
There's a Dave Johnson I do know, but I think it's a different one, who used to promote or used to sponsor a podcast that I did.
Right, I don't think it's the same one.
Pretty sure
not
it's
the MP for Wantage.
I don't think so.
Right.
But I do remember that the former MP for Wantage was one Lord, what's his face, who now is seen knocking around here.
Vesey.
Yeah,
Crazy Vesey.
I had a bit of a set to with him once on College Green, where he accused me of never speaking to any of his constituents in Wantage, and I said, well, I'm mayor, how do you know I haven't? And he was, not happy at all. Still doesn't like me, I don't think. Anyway, never mind. Peter Cardwell, thank you very much indeed.